Hey everyone, welcome back to Tan's Top 10 Show. So now that we got the first video out of the way, that was my Blu-ray collection video. If you haven't watched that, check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. For our second video, we're obviously going to do a top 10 video. And what better way to start off than my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Now, it's going to be a little bit of a cheat here. There's not 10 movies, there's more than 10. But I figured if there's a trilogy or a franchise, I gotta stick them together. So that's what we're doing. So let's get right into it. My number 10 film is Good Will Hunting. Now, I am a huge fan of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and the writing in this movie is some of the best. It's some of my favorite writing of all time. I absolutely love the story of this movie too, and the acting, especially by Robin Williams, really makes this movie work for me. I think he absolutely deserved the Oscar. It's a fantastic performance. I think everyone in this movie gives a great performance, especially Minnie Driver. I think she gets overlooked in this movie, and she's fantastic. But I just love the relationship between all the characters. I love movies set in Boston. This one, obviously set in Boston. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and just the way everyone talks, the way the story flows. I absolutely adore this movie, and I can watch it basically any day. So, number 10, Good Will Hunting. My number 9 film, this is a trilogy. This would be in a lot of people's top 10 favorite movies of all time, or at least best. It's number 9 for me, the Godfather Trilogy. Now, I know people hate or despise Godfather Part 3. I don't mind it as much. It's definitely not as good as the other two, the first two. But that's because those two are like two of the greatest movies ever made. And so it's kind of hard to follow that up. I still enjoy number 3, but number 1 and 2. Number 1 is my favorite. I love Godfather, the original one. It's my favorite out of the trilogy. Number 2 is epic and ambitious. And I love it so much. And the first time I watched these movies, I actually liked number 2 better. But last time I rewatched them, I think I like number 1 more. I just think it's a little bit tighter, but I can rewatch these movies any day. And, I mean, they are obviously some of the best movies ever made. Number 8 is Heat. I absolutely love bank robbery movies, and Heat is one of, if not the best. And this is finally the movie that put Al Pacino and Robert De Niro against each other. And this is like an epic. This movie is almost 3 hours long. I absolutely love everything about this movie. Sure, there's some corny moments and stuff, especially Al Pacino, but I love it. He is so over the top in this movie. And I love him and Robert De Niro facing off against each other. Robert De Niro is such a straight man, and he never breaks. And Al Pacino is just like so over the top, but they're like equals, and one's obviously good, one's bad, and you just know one of them's got to lose at the end. And the bank robbery in this movie is absolutely incredible. One of the best shootouts I've ever seen in a film. The sound design in this movie, oh my god. The fact that this didn't get nominated for any Oscars is insane. This is my favorite Michael Mann movie. It's one of my favorite Al Pacino performances. Robert De Niro is good in it. I don't think it's one of his best performances. He's kind of playing pretty one note the entire time. He plays it fantastically, but it's a pretty one note performance. I absolutely love him in this movie. But I also love Val Kilmer in this movie. His hair is so cool. Yeah, just Heat. If you haven't seen it in a while, or if you've never seen it, definitely check it out. It's a pretty long movie. It's almost 3 hours long, but I cannot recommend this movie enough. It's obviously in my top 10 favorite movies. At number 8, Heat. And before we go, you know I gotta do it. Shut up, Ralph. Sit down! Love it. Number 7 of my favorite movies of all time, The Princess Bride. You heard me talk about it in my Blu-ray collection video that I absolutely adore this movie. I think it blends every single genre that's in it perfectly. I think if you hate this movie, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you dislike it, how can you dislike this movie? It's funny. It's got adventure. It's got romance. Oh, it's just such a good feeling movie. I absolutely adore it. I could probably rewatch this movie any day of the week. And I love the cast. Inigo Montoya, probably my favorite character. Although, uh, what's his name? Wallace Shawn. Wallace Shawn is so awesome in this movie. And so is Andre the Giant. I love all their banter back and forth. It's so good. And there's so many quotable lines in this movie, like, inconceivable. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. I could just go on for days about how quotable, how entertaining this movie is. And yeah, there's some cheesy moments, and you can obviously tell like some of the props and the sets are fake. But I think that just adds to like the fantasy fairy tale element of this movie. And I think it all adds to it. Rob Reiner directed a lot of great movies in like the 80s and the 90s. But this is my favorite one of his. And I love this movie so much. All right. Number 6 of my favorite movies of all time, The Town. Now, I know I said Heat is probably the best bank robbery movie, but The Town is my favorite. I remember just seeing this movie back in 2010 when it first got released, and I was just blown away by it. Ben Affleck, I couldn't believe he directed and starred in this movie. I think it's amazing that he did that. It's probably my favorite performance of his. Jeremy Renner is so off the walls in this movie, so scary, so intense, but I love his performance. He definitely, uh, deserved the Oscar nomination. Blake Lively gives such an underrated performance in this movie. She's such like a weird Boston girl. You would never expect this from Blake Lively. And Jon Hamm. I think this is a pretty early Jon Hamm performance. I don't know when Mad Men started. I'd never seen him until this movie. I thought he was really good as the FBI agent. Um, he could have been a little bit better, but for what he did, I think he did a great job. But The Town, I love the bank robbery scenes in this movie, the shootout. I love the dialogue. So, I think the dialogue in this movie is super underrated. Like the scene where Claire, Rebecca Hall's character, who's also fantastic in the movie, when she is in the garden after she finds out that Ben Affleck is the one who took her hostage in the first robbery, and she's like, "Have you ever like?" She wants to know all the truth about like if how many banks he's robbed, if he's ever killed anyone, and she's just like, "Why? I won't believe you." And he says, "Yes, you will, because you'll hate the answers." Like that is amazing writing. That is so good. And the final shootout and everything at Fenway Park is just awesome. I think this is a wonderfully directed movie, beautifully shot, acted, directed. Yeah, I said it all. So number 5 of my favorite movies of all time is the original Star Wars trilogy: New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Um, these movies, I don't even know what I can say about these movies that hasn't been said. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite, followed by A New Hope, and then Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi, I have some problems with. I'm not a big fan of the Ewoks or Endor. And once it kind of reaches that point in the movie, I kind of teeter off a bit. But everything else in the movie is fantastic. But let's just start out with the original, A New Hope. Now, this movie may be a little bit dated. Some of the special effects, some of the dialogue is just meh. But you can't deny the influence this movie has on all cinema, all films, just how revolutionary it is. And I think it still holds up. I don't mind the cheesiness or the practical or some of the special effects that don't really hold up. I think it just adds to the experience. Everything that George Lucas did with that first movie, incredible. The characters that he created, all the design work, the universe, the world that he created for Star Wars, it's just genius. It's nothing short of genius. I know we can rip on him about the prequels, but everything he did with that original movie, props to him. And I think they followed up even better in Empire Strikes Back, my personal favorite of the Star Wars films. This is just so much darker, just so much more intense, but so much more lively. this movie is. I really feel for the characters in this movie. I think they developed them so well, especially Han and Leia's relationship. Absolutely love it in this movie. Chewbacca, Luke, Yoda. This probably has one of my favorite scenes in all of movie history when Luke is trying to raise the X-wing out of the water on Dagobah, and he can't. And then he's like, I can't do it." And then Yoda does it, and Luke's like, "I don't believe it." And Yoda says, "That is why you failed." Chills every time I watch that scene. Absolutely adore that scene. And Yoda's introduction in this movie actually super funny. Yoda is so damn funny in this movie. He's probably my favorite character in the movie actually. But the big twist at the end, even though we all know it's coming, still holds up. And yeah, Empire Strikes Back just kicks ass. It rules. It's one of the best movies ever made, and one of the best sequels ever made. And Return of the Jedi, like I said, it's not my favorite of the trilogy. It's my least favorite. But besides the Ewoks and Endor, I think this movie holds up really well. I love the continuation of all the characters' relationships. I love them trying to save Han from Jabba's palace. I love their interaction once they save Han. They get him out of the carbonite, and then Chewbacca's hugging him, and Han's just like, "I'm okay, pal. I'm okay." It's just such a heartwarming scene. Chewbacca is just such a furry fella. But and then obviously my favorite part is the ending. Now, not the space battle. Space battle is awesome, but I love the ending between Luke and Darth Vader and the Emperor. Just that build up is so awesome. The Emperor, is just so evil, and Luke, he's just like right on the edge of, killing him. I probably would have killed the Emperor. It's like, yeah, you want me to, and you're just so annoying. I'll just do it. But Luke, he's stronger than me. Good for him. And I think Return of the Jedi is a great wrap up to this trilogy. What they did with it. I think it's sad. I'm satisfied with it, and just an awesome universe that I enjoy entering every time I rewatch these movies, which I do pretty damn often. So, Star Wars: The Original Trilogy, number 5. My number 4 favorite film of all time, Inception. I think Inception is one of the most unique, interesting movies of all time. I love rewatching this movie and learning something new every time. It's like, oh, I didn't pick that up the first 20 times I watched it. Oh, that's interesting. And last time I watched this movie, it's a lot more emotional than I remember. I really got invested in Dom Cobb, played by Leo. I really got invested in his story with his wife and everything, and trying to be able to see his kids. I got emotional during it. And all the performances in this movie are just amazing. Tom Hardy, I think this is a movie that introduced me to him. He's my favorite actor of all time now. And he is so damn funny in this movie. But everyone has great chemistry. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page, Michael Caine, Ken Watanabe, and Cillian Murphy is also really good in this movie. And the fact that Christopher Nolan was able to direct this movie and come up with such a unique screenplay and kind of have everything make sense. I mean, it's maybe everything doesn't make sense, but a lot of it does. And it's so interesting to be able to figure out what's all going on. I love rewatching it and finding something new every time. So number 3 on my favorite movies of all time is another cheat. It's a trilogy, and Lord of the Rings trilogy. These are some of the best. I think this is the best trilogy of all time. From one movie to the next, I think this flows the best. I think this has the best story. These are some of the best looking movies ever made. Some of the most emotional, the most epic. I mean, everyone knows how epic these movies are. I mean, Return of the King won 11 Oscars. Every Oscar it was nominated for, it won. It's my favorite of the trilogy. I think it's just the most epic movie ever made. I I think, and whoever says that it's got too long of end or too long of an ending, too many endings, whatever you say, I disagree. This is an epic movie trilogy. Then there's so many characters and storylines that they have to wrap up, and I'm so invested in it already that if they want to spend another 20 minutes wrapping up the story, I'm all fine with that. If I can spend as much time in Middle Earth as I can, please, Peter Jackson, please do it. Two Towers is probably my second favorite of the trilogy. I actually really like the attack scene with like the I can't remember the wolf dog things with the orcs and then Aragorn goes flying off the cliff. I love that scene. I think it's a pretty underrated action scene in this trilogy. And obviously the Battle of Helm's Deep is the standout. I think it's one of the best battle scenes ever filmed. There's so many entertaining scenes and it's just epic and badass in every way. And it's shot at nighttime, but you can see everything that is happening. It's so well shot. Beautiful, beautiful movie. I just think the stuff with the trees, the yeah, Ents, however you say it, the tree beard or whatever his name is, that just slows down the movie for me a little bit, but I still adore it. And Fellowship of the Ring, I kind of want to watch this movie right now. Honestly, it's been a while since I've seen this. I've seen Two Towers and Return of the King a lot more than Fellowship of the Ring, but I absolutely adore this movie as well. Everything with the going into the mines of Moria. I think that's where they go. Mines of Moria. It's been a while, but then they find the troll. And that entire action scene, and then fighting the Balrog, obviously, you shall not pass. Just, and it's just amazing that Peter Jackson was able to take everything from the books and just recreate this world on film and make it so believable. All the CGI in this trilogy holds up so well. I think these movies look better than the Hobbit trilogy easily. And excuse me, and the Hobbit trilogy came out a decade after these movies came out. But everyone who is involved in these movies obviously cared about them. The perfect trilogy. I think these are perfect movies, and nothing can top them, except for my top two favorite movies. My number two favorite movie of all time, Warrior. I've actually seen a lot of movie channels or movie reviewers talk about this movie recently, and everything they say about it is true. It's a really underrated movie. If you have not seen it, check it out. Find it wherever you can and watch it. All right, Warrior. Obviously, I love it because Tom Hardy is in it, and he's just built like a brick shithouse in this movie. But it's not just that. I absolutely adore the story in this movie. I have a older brother. We're best friends, and this movie just really spoke to me because sometimes you just conflict with your best friend, your brother, and you sometimes tear apart. And just being able to see that sibling rivalry in this movie really spoke to me. And this is a movie, it's just like Rocky, where you watch it and you just want to just get shit done. You want to go hit the bench press, hit the weights, go run uphill, go bear crawl backwards up a hill, go ice skating up a hill. I don't know what you do, but anytime I watch this movie, I told you during my Blu-ray collection video that first time I ever saw this movie was my sophomore year of high school. I broke my shin playing soccer, and during my final weeks of recovery, I was sitting on the couch. I turned on TV, and this movie was on. It was about halfway through. It was when all the fight, like the tournaments and the fight, started, and I just watched this, the last hour of this movie, and at the end of it, I got up and I took a walk or a run outside, and I was still in my walking boot, but I went for a run outside on my broken shin. This movie motivated me to do that. I absolutely adore it. I cry every single time at the end. So emotional, and the fight scenes in this movie are some of the best. I think Gavin O'Connor did an amazing job shooting this movie, directing this movie. I think it's perfect. There's not a scene in this movie that I would take out. Sorry that I keep burping a lot. My bad. I'm really sorry about that. Excuse me. But just wow, just such an underrated movie, and I think it's perfect. There's not a scene in this movie that I would take out. I think everything lands in this movie. Frank Grillo is so cool in this movie too, and yeah, Warrior. Just watch it. Just watch it. Just appreciate it. And if you do watch it, or if you've seen it, let me know what you think about it in the comments. I want to have a discussion about Warrior because I love it that much. All right. Now, my number one favorite movies of all time. It's another cheat, but it's the Dark Knight trilogy. I know this is kind of a cliche for these movies to be someone's favorites, especially Dark Knight, which it is my favorite movie of all time. But I was in like sixth grade when Dark Knight came out in theaters, and I just remember seeing that movie, and it just stuck with me. So Batman Begins. I think this is my least favorite of the trilogy, but I also think it's amazing in every single way. The only downside to this movie is I think the fight scenes are pretty sloppy. I think it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. I think Nolan, the more the trilogy goes on, I think he gets a little bit better handle on shooting fight scenes and stuff. So that's probably the only thing I can say bad about this movie. Other than that, this movie is amazing. Uh, the cast that he was able to assemble for this movie, Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne Batman, perfect casting. Michael Caine as Alfred is one of my favorite characters of all time. I think he gives an amazing performance. He's so funny and likable. It's such a heartwarming character. You know, you just feel so safe around Alfred. Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, perfect. I love the little scene between Michael Caine and Lucius Fox in this movie. Absolutely adore it. And Gary Oldman in this movie also gives a great performance as Lieutenant Gordon, not Commissioner Gordon yet, Lieutenant Gordon. And I think just the entire cast is amazing, except Katie Holmes. She's not terrible, but she's just stands out like a sore thumb compared to everyone else. But I also love watching Batman or Bruce Wayne, sorry, like train as a ninja because Batman is a ninja, and I love seeing those scenes. Everything in the beginning is awesome, and so yeah, Batman Begins. All right, so one you guys have all been waiting for. It's The Dark Knight. It's my favorite movie of all time. It's got my favorite performance of all time with Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel. I absolutely think she was snubbed of an Oscar. I think she should have won the Oscar for. Okay, I can't do this to you guys. Heath Ledger as the Joker. You guys know it's my favorite performance of all time. It's one of the best performances ever filmed. It's a tragedy that we lost him at this point in time, but he went out on. I don't know how you could have topped this performance, honestly. He just takes over. This is not a Batman movie. This is a Joker movie. Every scene that Joker is in, he steals the movie away. But also, everything surrounding the movie besides Joker is also fantastic. I love Batman, like having to conflict if he's a villain or a hero, and where's that line that he walks. You know, he's just right on the line of becoming a criminal. And Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, Two-Face in this movie, I think he's underrated. I think he gives a great performance. He does a lot of yelling, a little too much maybe, but if I could go back and rewatch this movie for the first time ever, I would love to because I just want to be blown away by everything that Heath Ledger does in this movie, by everything that happens. I saw it when I was in sixth grade, so my mind was not matured enough yet to really understand the movie and fully grasp it. So if I could rewatch this movie for the first time ever, that'd be amazing. But yeah, it's my favorite movie of all time. There's not much I can say about it that hasn't been said. And finally, The Dark Knight Rises. This is my second favorite of the trilogy. I think Batman Begins is a better film, but I just enjoy Dark Knight Rises more. I'd rather watch this. Bane, Tom Hardy. I've said it how many times in this video already. Tom Hardy, I absolutely adore him as Bane. I think Anne Hathaway gives an amazing performance as Catwoman. I think she's pretty underrated, actually. I love the epic feeling of this movie. I absolutely adore the fight scene between Bane and Batman in the sewers. Just the way that, it's not like such a fast fight, but it's just brutal. And you just really feel every hit that Batman takes. And finally, when Bane breaks his back, it's just like, oh, ho, ho. And although it's not a perfect movie, I think The Dark Knight Rises is a satisfying conclusion to this trilogy. Everywhere that the characters are left off, I think, is very satisfying. And if Nolan ever, which I doubt he would, ever return to Gotham to make another Batman movie, I would totally be all for it. And obviously, I would be because these are my favorite movies of all time. And so, yeah. And as you can tell, I'm a Batman fan. So it would make sense that these are my favorite movies of all time. So that's it, guys. Now you know what my top 10 favorite movies of all time are. Let me know down in the comments what you guys would list yours as. I would love to take a look at those lists. I'm always interested in what people's taste in movies are. Yeah, and just let me know what you guys think of the video down in the comments. Let me know what you thought of my top 10 favorite movies, if any of them would be in your top 10. Yeah, just any feedback at all would be greatly appreciated. And please leave a like, share a comment down below in the comment section, and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated, everyone. And we'll see you guys next time.